Hello everyone, I'm Belethal, and this is my first video on constructed languages, or Conlangs for short. You may not know what a Conlang is, but you've probably heard of languages like Tolkien's Elvish languages, Quenya and Sindarin, or Star Trek's Klingon, or more recent examples like Na'vi from the movie Avatar, or Dothraki from Game of Thrones. These are all Conlangs, and they can in fact be used for normal communication, like the English language would be used or any other natural language. Conlangs, depending on how developed they are, can be very rich and complex. This video, and future videos like it, are for anyone interested in Conlangs and in how to make a Conlang of their own. This video specifically is going to be about what a constructed language is and what types of Conlangs there are. The Language Creation Society defines a constructed language as a language whose phonology, grammar, and vocabulary have been consciously devised for human or human-like communication instead of having developed naturally. It is also referred to as an artificial or invented language. Basically, a constructed language was intentionally developed by one or more people as opposed to being a byproduct of people living together and trying to communicate with one another. These people, which create Conlangs, are often called Conlangers, and can have many different reasons for creating their Conlangs. One of the most common ways I have seen people categorize Conlangs is actually by the goals or desires a creator has for their language. The first kind of Conlang I'll be talking about in this video is called an artistic language, or an artlang for short. Artlangs are languages created either to have a certain sound to them, such as being flowy or harsh, or having a certain look to its writing, to be a creative expression for the creator, or just to be fun. All the languages I mentioned before are artlangs, as they were created to fit a fictional culture, to have a specific feel to them. Artlangs today are the most popular type of language for Conlangers to create, and seem to be getting the most media exposure in recent times. The second type of Conlang I want to talk about is an auxiliary language, or an auxlang. By now you've probably noticed Conlangers like to shorten words. Expect this a lot. Anyway, auxlangs are designed with real-life speakers in mind. Basically, auxlangs are usually designed to be easy to learn for a certain group of speakers, and meant to be used by those speakers. The most famous auxlang I know of is Esperanto, which has, I believe, millions of speakers in Europe, actually. Or maybe it's just worldwide. Esperanto was designed to be similar to Romance languages and be easy for Europeans to learn, and was intended to be a universal second language for Europeans to use when talking to one another. Like if you had a German person and an English person, a French person, and an Italian person all in one room, they'd all be able to talk to each other because all of them would theoretically learn Esperanto in school. This never actually spanned out, and auxlangs have not usually become as successful as they would like to be. But auxlangs are designed for people to use like this. The third and final type of Conlang I will be talking about is the engineered language, or an englang. Or engelang, I'm not sure exactly how it's supposed to be pronounced. But engelangs are designed to have a more organized structure and are split up into three smaller groups. The first subgroup is logical languages, which are generally modeled after predicate logic, or formal logic, or any of those things, and is intended to be perfectly logical and unambiguous. Logical languages want, when you say something, for it to mean exactly, specifically one thing, and not could be interpreted in many different ways. The second subgroup is philosophical languages, which are designed to follow from or be based on some sort of ideology. Tokipona is a philosophical language based on Taoist ideals. Tokipona uses only just over 100 base words and is very simplified. It does not allow for affixes or many other things that other languages do, and this is supposed to represent the Taoist ideal of, everything being simplified and, stuff like that. The last subgroup is experimental languages. These languages are for linguistic research and to explore the link between language and thought. The most famous concept which experimental languages seek to test is the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. It might be Sapir-Whorf or something, but the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis will not be covered in this video, but might be covered in a later one. The types of Conlangs I like to create are artlangs, And in the following videos, I will likely focus more so on artlangs, but much of what I cover will apply equally to all types mentioned here. One important thing to remember is that a language need not fit only one of these categories, as a language could potentially fit into multiple or even all of these, and in fact, the feminist language Ladan, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, but I'm probably not, actually counts as both an artlang and a philosophical language, as it is meant to support feminist ideologies and to be pleasant to the ears of women, or at least the women who constructed it. It is important to understand what you want your language to be before you get too far in making it. Or you may find out that you are disappointed in the language you made because it doesn't fit what you really wanted for the language. So this is a very important thing to decide on early. There is another way to divide up languages, and that is by a priori and a posteriori. I think that's how you pronounce that. A priori means from the earlier, and is used to describe conlangs, which come from no existing language. This means while creating the language, the creator did not use words from already formed languages like English, Japanese, Spanish, or even another existing conlang like Sindarin or Klingon. Essentially, an a priori language is totally original and a new language that comes from nothing. An a posteriori language is a language where a significant number or even all of its elements come from an already existing language, or already existing languages, as it can draw from more than one. Basically, an a posteriori language uses words and affixes and grammar from other already existing languages within it, or at least uses them as a starting point. Deciding which of these your language is the first step towards starting your language. As you can imagine, these are very different approaches to making a language and can heavily change how you approach constructing your language. Some say making an a posteriori language is easier because you have a starting point. However, I've always preferred a priori languages because of the freedom it gives me in what I can do with it. It's up to you what type of language you want to make, and whether you want it to be related to existing languages. But deciding these things is your first step to creating your first conlang. The next video will likely be on sounds and phonology, so look out for that video. This is Balethal, signing off.